With Vice President Kamala Harris, now the Democratic nominee for president, one of the key questions is whether America is ready for not just a female president, but a black female president. Why is that? Because sexism and racism still are prevalent among certain segments of our society, not the least being conservative white men, especially those who support Trump, and to a lesser extent, conservative white women. Of course, with Trump's VP choice, J.D. Vance, attacking women who work or keep cats, that could change. So, once again, the Lean to the Left podcast, which focuses on important social issues facing us today, is tackling racism and how it continues to influence much of American thought today. Our guest is Richard Pellegrino, author of I'm Not White, One Man's Journey from Whiteness to Oneness, and founder of something called the Global Woke Institute. How appropriate given the fact that the Republicans, they just can't stop talking about the Democrats being too woke. And I don't even think they know what the hell they're talking about, but they love using it. And old, what's his name from Florida, the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, he used that over and over again when he was trying to run against Trump for the nomination. But as you can see, it didn't work very well. Anyway, enough of that. Richard, thanks for joining us on the Lean to the Left podcast. I really appreciate it.
Happy to be here, Bob.
Hey, first tell us a little bit about your book, I'm Not White, One Man's Journey from Whiteness to Oneness, and what inspired you to write it.
What really inspired me was my 8 grown children and 8 grandchildren so far asking me all these questions. And actually, they started interviewing me to write my history. I've had quite illustrious, maybe,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
a life, a lot of adventures, and it's
Uh-huh.
been a journey of self-discovery.
Okay.
And first and foremost, it's a memoir for my legacy for my family. I'm not a spring chicken any longer, but also to share what I've learned along the way.
Hmm.
And I was partly inspired by Kendi's How to Be an Anti-Racist, because what he does is weave in his own personal stories and how he's learned not to be a racist, to be an anti-racist, because he said no longer can we say we're not racist. But anyway, that's how I finally wrote the book. I've written before. I wrote a book on immigrants when the anti-immigrant debacle started in 2006.
Yeah.
And I've been writing articles and so forth for newspapers, journals for years.
Hmm.
So that's how this book came about.
Okay. You mentioned your wife and kids. So she's from, where's she from? Your
The
wife.
West Indies, St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Okay.
Right.
From the West Indies. So you've got multiracial kids. You've got 8 kids, right? And 8 grandkids?
So far, yeah.
Far.
Not
You
so
mean
far.
you're going to have more?
On the grandkids, no, on the grandkids.
I was wondering, man, because you
Now
you
listen,
you said you're no spring chicken, so
but Italians and West Indians getting together, it's
yeah, there you
fireworks.
go. There you go. I would say it's probably pretty hot stuff. 8 kids would testify to that. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm a recovering Catholic too, Italian. But anyway, but
Right.
yeah, Bob, we're actually the most not I would even say biracial, but multiracial because of as you may know, the West Indies for 200 years has intermarried all the so-called races:
Okay.
Asian, black, white,
Uh-huh.
Amerindian, and so forth. So
Okay.
my kids have it all, plus the Italian, Southern Italian.
Wow. I bet they are beautiful kids too. I bet you.
I'm biased, but of course,
Yeah.
and all kids are beautiful in their own way.
Yes, that's true.
I have 6 daughters, and of course, I know more about hair than I ever wanted to learn in my life. Weave, locks, braids, everything.
Oh boy.
So it's wild, and we enjoy it. But we have our own community,
Yeah.
our family.
How did all of that influence? You mentioned a little bit that your book is a memoir, but how did
Hmm.
that influence what you're doing with your life?
Yeah, that had of course, a profound influence, but
Hmm.
it started way before there. That's how I got there to the West Indies, really. It
Okay.
started in the 70s. I was blessed or cursed to be grown up in the 70s. And if you want to talk about woke, that's about when woke started, when we started to become awakened and not just accept what our parents and tradition told us.
Yeah.
And so that's why I laugh when people put down woke. So you'd rather be asleep, right?
Yeah. Wait, that's why I say I don't think the Republicans really understand what the origin of the word was to begin with.
Yep.
Because if
And
they
so
did, they wouldn't be using it the way they do.
yes and
I don't
no,
think.
but
Hmm?
they they know how to twist
Oh, that's true.
lemonade back to lemon.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
Like Trump saying, saying Biden was the worst president in history when he was the worst president in history, and everybody knows it.
And he says he's the best since Lincoln or better than Lincoln, whatever.
That's
But
right.
that's all part of the
He
cult.
even wanted to be on the what do you call it, the mountain where the presidents are.
We'll put
Yeah.
him up here on Stone Mountain with the Confederate racists.
There you go. That's where he belongs. Yeah,
But
okay.
so anyway, I started in the 70s and I was thankfully part of that whole movement. Dr. King, of course, he was assassinated already, but his civil rights movement and anti-war movement, so forth. And so
Mhm.
I woke up. That's when I had my initial awakening. But I
Okay.
will say, and I have to say this, I was a hippie. I was a drug dealer too, because my father was a New York cop. All the cops' kids were the biggest drug dealers because we couldn't get arrested. And
Wow.
that's another whole story. And they even made a movie on TV about us called The Death of Richie with Ben Gazzara and Robbie Benson back then. It's on YouTube
Wow.
because one of our crew, his father found out they got in a fight and he shot and killed him. The father shot and killed him. And it became a book and then a movie. So I was part of that whole milieu back then,
Hmm.
really in a bubble, still in a bubble of white privilege, white superiority.
Hmm.
But I was totally spoiled because I had that white privilege. I could do anything and get away with it.
Right.
But part of that, I did some good too with marching against the war, getting arrested for that, marching with my black brothers and sisters for
Hmm.
civil rights with the Panthers and so forth. But I
Yeah.
never had a black friend, never, until
Okay.
I'm in my 20s.
Okay.
Okay. And that's significant because intellectually I might have known some of this stuff, but heart wise, I didn't really know.
I
You know.
understand. Okay.
And so fast forward, I became, and you cut me off anytime because I can
No,
talk, Bob.
keep going.
Okay. So in my 20s, not only was I a drug dealer, but I became a drug addict because obviously I'm an addict by nature with 8 kids. So I just transferred my addiction. I got addicted to heroin, barbiturates, everything, speed, cocaine. I was
Oh,
in the music business, hanging out with Jimi Hendrix and pop stars at parties, that whole milieu then. So my first order of business was to get out of that,
okay.
stop destroying and killing myself.
Right.
And they say you have to hit bottom first. My
Hmm.
bottom was in front of a federal judge facing 63 years in prison for
Oh,
selling heroin
oh
to
my God.
undercover feds. They couldn't protect me. I could from the New York police couldn't protect me from that. And so I made my first deal with God, which you're not supposed to do. And I said, "You get me off of this and I'll change."
Yeah.
And sure enough, the judge looked at my record, said, "You graduated in top 10% of your high school." It was a large high school. That was the
Hmm.
first I knew of that. Yeah,
Okay.
I was so high all the time. He said 5 years probation. So during that probation, but he said, if I see you back in this court, I throw the book at you. You're going to prison for a long time. And so I tried everything: methadone, Nation of Islam, drug treatment, everything. And finally, I got into martial arts. But a Buddhist taught me about Buddhism
Hmm.
and martial arts, then yoga, then Maharishi Yogi taught me transcendental meditation, and I learned about the spiritual part of me and how to use that power to overcome. And so that's how I got out of drugs. And during that whole religious and spiritual search, I traveled halfway around the world. That's in the book, selling drugs to finance my spiritual search.
Oh man.
But I ended up with the Baha'i faith. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Uh,
Sure.
Yeah, it's actually near you in Myrtle Beach in Hemingway, the headquarters, one of the headquarters. And so that taught the unity of all the religions and the unity of the races. And that's when I first had my black friends in my 20s.
Okay. Okay.
And eventually I moved to the South, did a lot of work with the Baha'is, fought with the KKK when they busted up our meetings, and ended up going on a part mission trip and part business trip to the West Indies in 1990, and ended up staying and came back 6 years later with a wife and 3 kids.
Okay. So that's where you met your wife at that
Yep,
time. Yeah. Okay.
exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Let's talk a little bit about politics. What do you think of Biden's selection of Kamala Harris and the overwhelming support that's materialized since then?
The, the new t-shirt I'm making is a picture of a butt with orange hair on it saying, "Thank God a black woman's going to kick someone's butt." That's so sums it up. By the way, she's Blasian. She's not 100%. She's a mixture of black and Asian.
Yes, she is.
And she's married to a white man, adopted his white kid. So she is, just like Obama was, America.
Yeah.
She's America, a
Yeah.
symbol of
Well,
America, our greatness, our
how about some of
diversity.
these Republicans trying to throw the birther thing at her?
Of course, they got to throw. They're still throwing it at Obama.
Oh, I know it. I know it. I know. I think she's.
And the joke is, Bob, who really has a right to be here?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to our history. Who really has a right? By the way, when I wrote my immigration book, my book on
Hmm.
immigration, and
Hmm.
I was about to debate Bill O'Reilly on Fox at
Okay.
that time, I was invited to. My
Okay.
mother and father sat me down in Long Island, New York, and said they were Fox enthusiasts. My family was like Archie Bunker. My parents were like Archie and Edith. I was like the meatball. And so I grew up in that household, but we loved each other and respected each other, just
Right.
differed on everything.
Uh-huh.
Right. So they sat me down and said, "Rick, your grandparents, her parents, came to this country from Italy illegally. That's the
Okay.
first that I ever heard that Italians came here illegally."
Okay.
Okay. And then I researched and found out the true history of immigrants. Hardly any came here, quote, legally from
Okay.
Europe.
All right.
And so, anyway, let's get back to stop fighting about who's supposed to be here. We're here,
Yeah, that's
right?
for sure.
We
Yeah.
got to learn how to live together. The true
Yeah.
strength, my book is about finding, and I do workshops, finding your authentic identity. It's got to start with me. Michael
Hmm.
Jackson said, "Look at the man in the mirror. Who am I really?
Right.
I'm not a white. White was a slave term. Okay.
Yeah.
There was no such thing as white. We were Italian, Irish, European. No European considered themselves white. Matter of
Hmm.
fact, Southern Italians, the reason why our skin is olive color is not because of the black olives we ate.
Yeah.
But I had to give my father that lesson when I wanted to marry a black woman. I had to sit him down and say, "Dad, this skin color, we tan easily, not because we eat black olives." And the authentic identity first, individually, nationally, religiously, culturally, and then collectively. What is
Hmm.
our American authentic of identity? It's in the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
All men, all people are created equally,
Hmm.
right? That's the
Hmm.
founding principle and are entitled to life, liberty, and so forth. Okay. So, what is our strength? If we say America is exceptional, what is our strength? Our strength is we're the most diverse, the largest, most diverse country in the world. Everybody has come here. The Caribbean are small countries that are more diverse for 200 years. America is now the biggest experiment. But anyway, and so Obama, what's her name? Kamala, I
Uh-huh.
can't even pronounce her right.
Kamala.
Kamala,
Yeah.
they represent America. That's the next step. Woman.
Yeah.
So many other countries have had
Yeah.
women leaders before
What
us.
what
So Australia.
challenges do you think she's got going forward as she's trying to defeat Trump?
I think the most challenges she has is not from MAGA and not from the white conservatives. It's from within our movements, the left, whatever you want to call us, the Democrats, all of our different labels.
Hmm.
Okay. because I'm part of a lot of radical groups, but I'm so far left that I'm almost right. You know what I'm saying? So I get together with
Okay.
libertarians, with true conservatives, and we
Hmm.
find common ground
Sure.
about liberty and so forth.
Mm.
So, like right now, the war in Gaza, the genocide in Gaza,
Yeah.
that's turning a lot of young people away from the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
uh, they're supporting third party. But my point to them here in Georgia, especially where we're a decision making state, is that's fine, but you don't want to give the election to Trump by voting third party.
That's right.
It's that, and also her history, which the Republicans are laughingly using as a prosecutor. She
Yeah.
locked up a lot of black folk in
Yeah.
California, a lot of white folk too. That's
Yeah.
what prosecutors do.
Yeah. That's
You know,
right. It was her job.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's more us uniting. That's always the case. The
Hmm.
Republicans, one thing I'll give them, they're united. They're united in wrong because they have a strong cult mentality.
Yep. Yeah.
We're a cult as well. We have our own cults, and cult is not necessarily a bad word. It means to honor and follow a leader. I'm a member of Dr. King's cult.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
the SELC, but mindlessness and heartless cults are dangerous, and that's what MAGA is.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have to unite among ourselves and say, wow, this is an important step in history, even
Right.
if it's symbolic,
Yeah.
even if it's just symbolic.
Yeah. Now, do you, Harris met just the other day with Netanyahu and called for a ceasefire. Do you expect a change in U.S. policy with her having a stronger influence on what's going on, even though she's still just the vice president?
Very difficult.
Uh,
Obama said he was naive to think that he could make all the changes he proposed
right.
because the president has limited power. The Congress has limited power. The
Hmm.
Supreme Court has limited power.
Hmm.
You and I have the power. We grant them the authority to exercise our power.
Hmm.
And most Americans don't realize that we have that power, number one. Number two, that our foreign policy, people are complaining about inflation. We really have deflation compared to the rest of the world. Our
Hmm.
prices are artificially low.
Yeah.
Oil, gas is $10, $20 a gallon in other countries.
Hmm.
Okay. So it's our foreign policy in the Middle East that keeping those prices low, which
Yeah.
includes war.
Hmm.
Okay. And the military industrial complex. It's not easy to undo. But yes, I would say we have a better chance with her, especially as a woman,
Hmm.
because no women have an attachment to children, even though she didn't birth children, she
Right.
adopted them.
Yeah.
Okay, they don't want to see children being killed. They don't want to send their children to war
Yeah.
either.
Let's talk a little bit about the Global Woke Institute. What's that
Sure.
all about, really?
Woke about my redefinition of woke. By the way, my kids, my college professor friends, they all said don't use woke. It's worn out and it's abused. I said
Yeah.
no. I'm not letting other people define our good terminologies.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm redefining or rebirthing it. Woke to me means oneness.
Okay.
Anything that leads to oneness, because that's my belief. We're essentially one. Okay. Okay. And that has many different levels. Okay. That's one part of it. That's a spiritual part of it, but also philosophical. But global, why Global Woke Institute? Why? Because most Americans, Bob, I was real enlightened woke before I left this country. But guess what? Until I lived over there it took me maybe a couple of years to stop being the ugly American and thinking I knew it all.
Hmm.
And then I saw the world through a whole different perspective. And I realized we as Americans, unless we've lived overseas or we're really enlightened and awoke here, we don't have a clue about what's going on in the rest of the world and how our actions and inactions here affect that. For instance, I was a big proponent of Black Lives Matter. I
Okay.
started the chapter here in Atlanta. But
Okay.
when we say Black Lives Matter, we're really saying Black American lives because we don't know about Haitian lives, African lives, and all of that. And the
Yeah.
fact that some of the things we buy here in our computer here are
Yeah.
produced in our phones are produced by slaves in
Yeah.
Africa that we enslave.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why in the Baha'i teaching we're already one world. Okay, technology has made us one world already. Okay,
Good.
a
All
person
right.
in China is my neighbor. I can communicate with them today.
Mhm.
They might try to scam me, but
Yeah,
but when
that's
I figured out, but it's what goes around comes around, baby. But
I believe you said that.
when the Nigerians try to scam me, I call them out on it, but I say, listen, I get it. I get it. We've been scamming Africa for a long time, but
Yeah.
let's meet on a heart level and help each other.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
so that's why Global Woke Institute is to teach all. And I'm not, I'm learning along with everybody else. I'm
Okay.
not the know-it-all. That's why my website is not how woke you are, how woke am I.org. You determine how woke you are. You go there, there's a test, a self-test
Okay.
to determine how woke you are.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. How does that work?
The test,
Yeah.
you just take it and grade yourself and
Well,
decide.
you just have some questions there that you respond to. Is
Yeah,
that it? Yeah.
exactly.
Uh,
Multiple choices. At
uh-huh.
the end, I give an answer key of the answers that I like, but
Okay.
that doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
By the way, if you're born in a different country and you emigrated here and take that, then you automatically get more points.
Okay. Okay.
Because you have a world perspective. Americans are so brainwashed to think we're the best,
All right. Yeah.
and we don't have a clue. When we talk about exceptional, every country, just like you and I, you have exceptional capabilities that I don't have, and vice versa. And
Hmm.
Dr. King called it a network of mutuality.
Hmm.
Okay? If our paths cross, I can't become who I'm supposed to be if you don't become who you're supposed to be. We've got
Okay.
to help each other figure that out.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about oneness a little bit and global
Sure.
citizenship, which is part of the Global Woke Institute, right? You talked a little bit about oneness. What's global citizenship? How does that?
Just like I'm not white, probably my next book might be I'm Not American. Okay?
Okay.
Because that comes down in terms of my concept of myself, that's down on the list. Of
Hmm.
course, I'm white identified and I'm American I labeled,
Sure.
but human. I'm human.
All
We're
right.
all humans.
Right.
And that's where we have to meet.
Hmm.
Okay. And yes, we have different cultures, different nations. We're not trying to do away with that. Baha'i doesn't, but we have to learn how to complement each other. It's like a mosaic. And the United Nations, by the way, League of Nations, United Nations was a start. The
Hmm.
Baha'is were instrumental in implementing that. Okay, but the Baha'i faith taught this 150 years ago.
Okay.
Okay, in the 1800s, before the globalism was even a concept. Okay,
Okay.
actually, it started in the 1800s. And so, yeah, it's just the reality of things. I mean, when people say why I go and hold up signs every weekend at the town square here, cease fire, stop the effing genocide,
Hmm.
people say, why are you doing it? I say, those are my kids there in
Hmm.
Gaza. But
Hmm.
also, you're going to, it's for my kids here
Hmm.
because you don't think that Hamas or one of these groups is going to come here and retaliate
Right.
against my kid and family, right?
Right.
If I'm killing their kids, it's
Yeah.
we're connected. Life, we're all interconnected. That's
Okay.
a whole spiritual topic, but practically we are,
Okay.
economically we are. Look at us in China. We can talk all this crap and shit about China, but we can't exist without them economically, and neither can they
Yeah.
exist without us. Right?
Exactly.
You know?
All right. On the Global Citizen website.
Mhm.
Now, is Global Citizen part of the Global Woke Institute?
That's
There's two.
just one of the organizations that we endorse and we're
Oh,
members of.
it's a separate organization that you endorse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Global
Okay.
Citizen does a lot of great work.
Yeah, I was on their website today and I saw that they have under their issues, they've got three: defeat poverty, defend the planet,
Hmm.
and demand equity. Um, Talk a little bit about that for me.
We haven't mentioned it, but global warming, climate change, whatever you want to call it, is real. Okay? It's happening in America. If people don't, it's just real. But the sad thing is, again, it affects disproportionately countries and lands and people who are poor.
Yeah.
And they're poor. This is a hard pill to swallow, Bob. And even within my own family, I'm
Hmm.
more of a minimalist. My oldest daughter has a Mercedes. I hate it. I hate it.
Okay.
You know what
Okay.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
But everybody's got to decide for themselves. But
Right.
my motto is live simply so that others may simply live.
Okay.
Okay? But
Okay.
we're not going, that equity in the world is not going to happen unless we waste less and we change our materialism. Dr. King called it a revolutionary change in values, a revolution of values. We're putting people before profit. Materialism is the biggest cancer and scourge. We've got it bad.
We do
That
have it
sickness.
bad. Everything in this country seems to revolve around greed to me.
Exactly. And that's where I'm saying global woke institute. Our buying decisions. Let me tell you something. The people in Israel should be mad not at God, at Hamas, but at the U.S. Okay, the U.S. uses Israel as our military industrial base in the Middle East to control oil and control Iran and all these countries. The people in Ukraine should not be mad at Russia. They should be mad at the United States and allies in Europe. We use Ukraine as a buffer between Russia and so until we stop using people for our economic interests,
Mm.
priorities, those three goals will not take place. The good news is this is the head of the snake, but people all over the world, young people, are awakening or awakening. Okay, so they're not going to let us get away with this crap for much longer.
Yeah.
And also, spiritually and religiously, I believe what you sow is what you reap. Frankly, my family, we're looking for land in the mountains and in the Caribbean. We're getting a boat because when the crap hits the fan, I got to protect my family first. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And I only see that we're not going to. I thought the pandemic would awoken us more. It did temporarily. We helped each other, mutual aid, but we went right back to the crap. And by the way, I was one of the first full blown cases on a ventilator in the hospital for 19 days in
Wow.
2020. Yeah,
Wow.
it's in my book. That's one notoriety I don't want to repeat, but go ahead.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure.
Yep.
Okay. How can people get involved with the Woke Institute or the Global Citizen group?
Yeah, just go to the website howwokeami.org. You
Okay.
can subscribe there, and
Hmm.
I list other organizations, like minded organizations.
Okay.
Not everybody has to do the same thing.
Hmm.
And of course, the book is available on Amazon for $10. I'm not trying to make money. And Special Ideas is another site for $8. And if you're in Atlanta, I'll give you free gift copies.
Okay.
Or if I go to Myrtle Beach, I'll give you one.
That would be great. I'd love to have it. I sure would. So,
Also, let me say, I do have podcasts. I have a YouTube channel, Global Woke Institute
oh,
there.
okay. I didn't know you
Okay.
did a podcast.
Yeah, I do, but I haven't gone out and gotten guests yet because, as you can tell, I've got a lot to say first.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
do. Okay. You got anything you'd like to add? Have we covered what you needed to cover?
Yeah, great. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much for what you're doing and helping to awaken and awoken people to the realities.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And it's one of the things that since I retired a few years ago and Trump began yapping about the media being the enemy of the people and all of his lies and everything carrying on and what he did to this country when he was the president, I just felt if there's anything I can do, I'm a writer, I'm a communicator, so let's do it. And my wife keeps saying, when are you going to retire? I did retire. I'm not making any money doing this, but
Right.
I'm spending money. I'm spending my retirement money doing it. But
That's,
it's something I have to do, and I really enjoy it. So I appreciate your kind words very much, Rich.
yep. Thanks. Thanks so much, Bob. We're all in
Okay.
it together.
Yeah, we are, my friend. Hey, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this Lean to the Left video and you found it interesting and informative. Please visit on a regular basis and check out our interviews with guests on topics that focus on progressive politics and the important social issues of our time. Now, our interview shows stream on Mondays with special episodes on Thursdays. And you can check out upcoming shows, guests, and topics at podcast.leantotheleft.net. Subscribe to our audio version there and to our video shows here at YouTube. And follow us on social media. Facebook at Bob Gatty and the Lean to the Left podcast. Now, it's two. Bob Gatty is one Facebook page, and the Lean to the Left podcast is a second Facebook page. Twitter at Lean to the Left 1. Instagram at Lean to the Left 1. TikTok at Lean to the Left. LinkedIn at Bob Gatty. And YouTube at Lean to the Left. Now, I hope you'll support Lean to the Left as well so we can keep things going. Just click on the Donate tab at the top of the leantotheleft.net homepage and contribute by buying me a cup of coffee. That'll really help and would be much, much, much appreciated. Now, this is Bob Gatty signing off for Lean to the Left. Thanks for sharing your time with us.